Hey, welcome to the InternNE powered by Exarban webinar. I'm Shauna Dorsey with the Exarban Foundation, and I'm here with my co-host, Michaela. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. I'm Michaela Sandy with Grand Island Senior High. I work with our students here for the work-based learning.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. And today we have two special guests with us, and every month special guests, but two more. Lucky to have them here today. Julie Sigmund and Dr. Chris Moore with UNO. Why don't you introduce yourselves and just quickly, I'm sorry, not quickly, but tell us what you're here to talk to us about today.
Right. Well, I'll start with, I'm Julie Sigmund, Director for the Omaha STEM Ecosystem, and we partner with UNO and the Omaha Zoo to make that bridge between education and workforce. And in working with the university, we are moving on a new project, and I'll let Chris talk a little bit more about the Cities Learn.
Hi. Well, thank you, Julie. I'm Chris Moore. I am a professor of physics here at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, but I am also the director of our STEM Teaching Research and Inquiry-Based Learning Center. The center creates innovations and STEM education, and we do that through innovative informal and formal educational programming, as well as research that we do both in informal and formal education. What we're excited to talk today about is a project that we've been working on with the Omaha STEM ecosystem for a little while now. That's the STEM community platform, and being able to connect program providers with program participants and then the research community so that we can better understand the opportunities that are there in the metro area, as well as the opportunities for growth and opportunities for better access. And so that's where we've come in partnership with some colleagues out of Chicago, the Digital Youth Network, that has developed a platform called Cities Learn. And I don't know, Shauna, if you wanted me to kind of go through and show some of the visuals that we have for that now, or?
Yeah, that would be great. And then we'll kick it over to questions and open it up for the audience later too.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, let me make sure I... All right. So you've seen all of these things. This is just the intro. I don't need to go into that too much, and a little intro in terms of what Julie is doing with the Omaha STEM ecosystem, building a strong STEM community by connecting education and business development for tomorrow's workforce. The three things that the Omaha STEM ecosystem does is connect, communicate, and collaborate. And we think really helping to develop and launch a more robust STEM community platform will help facilitate that connection, communication, and collaboration. So in partnership with the AIM Institute, Omaha STEM Ecosystem has developed the STEM community platform as a place to connect program participants and for out-of-school time STEM activities across the Omaha metropolitan region. It's just a website right now where students can go, or participants can go, and parents can go to figure out what opportunities are available. And what we've really been thinking about is how we can, sort of close the loop and make this this platform a stronger format for improving outcomes within the area. So as I mentioned, we've partnered with the Digital Youth Network. They are a research team out of Northwestern University. They have spent the last 15 years developing what's called the Cities Learn platform. The Cities Learn platform is a suite made up of purpose-built solutions for strengthening out-of-school time ecosystems, which is exactly what we're trying to do. It connects local providers, documents young people's out-of-school time journeys, and it empowers parents, all while generating actionable analytics. And it's the actual analytics that the nerd researcher in me is really excited about. And because we can use those to help work together all of the different programs across the area to build and sustain a healthy local out-of-school time ecosystem for STEM learning. So there's a couple of pieces that are involved in this, and I can talk a little bit too about the stages that we are in right now. The first one is out-of-school time landscaping. That's where we bring in a team and send out some surveys and a whole host of other ways that we can collect data across the community to document the out-of-school time infrastructure that exists at a moment in time. All right, and so it's an asset-based model for ensuring that all young people have access to quality learning opportunities. And just The next stage would be OST Opportunity, and that's program discovery. So that's a unified platform for city programming providers that can serve as a single stop for families to find programs. Then the next piece of the suite is the out-of-school time engagement, implementing engaging programs that provides tools for providers, both in terms of being able to provide programming, but at the same time also do a very good job of assessment and evaluation of that programming to make sure that the impacts that they are hoping to have, they are indeed having. And then there's a new version that they're working on called Out of School Time Workforce that is really designed to help develop mentorship programs for workforce development, STEAM curriculum, and mentor job placement. So that we can really kind of close the loop where the participant can proceed through programming such that it can eventually lead to some sort of workforce opportunity, ideally. I wanted to very quickly kind of show what that might look like this first stage. And this is where we are now, the out of school time landscaping. Stage 1 is just documenting the local ecosystem. So I'm going to show you an example here. And Shauna can give me a thumbs up to show that it changed the screen. I never know if it's stuck on a tab or not. Okay. This is an example of the opportunity.
Sorry, Chris, just 1 second. Someone
Yes.
said that they can't see the screen. So do you mind like stopping share, reshare? I can see it, but just to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
There we go.
Good.
This is an example of opportunity landscape for Southside Chicago, developed with Argonne National Labs and the Digital Youth Network. And it's live data that comes in that shows the infrastructure in that region as that data is collected. And what it does is it provides a actionable dashboard for us to look at and determine who, for example, who is and is not involved in STEM programming and jobs. Right, it provides data on what types of STEM programming is needed. So what types of STEM programming is happening already and what types of STEM program is needed and should exist. Where is the STEM programming needed? What areas are we serving very well and what areas are we not serving well with maps? When is this programming needed? So what times during the day are we providing programming and what times are we missing out on, and when and where might those be best, where might we look to grow? And then how accessible are STEM programs? Being able to look from the perspective of both cost, transportation, and all of the barriers that we know that get in the way of access. And so this kind of dashboard and collecting all of the infrastructure that's existing within the area, here we can see for Southside Chicago, can provide actionable information for the community as a whole to make decisions about what types of STEM programming exists already, what we might need to going forward, and how we could always be answering that question, what next? Particularly for our younger kids, they go into an activity, they're really excited, and we want to be able to tell them what next, right? And we want to be able to provide those experiences for them. And so I'll go right back now. I'll stop sharing, so make sure that we get to the right place. And just launch right back in. But that's a great, so, nope, I lost there's Zoom. Sorry about that. We should all be experts at Zoom by now, but that's obviously not the case.
I think it's a little tricky today. I had some trouble too trying to get the screen going. Maybe it's just Friday.
There we go. So anyway, why did we, first off, the big question is, why are we partnering with our colleagues at Northwestern University? One of the things is that we learned very quickly as we developed the Omaha STEM community platform that it is an intense amount of work. And to get where we really needed to go, we were looking at years of development and large amounts of money. And the great news is that we found a team that's already been doing that, providing over 1.25 million youth profiles, 190 out-of-school time programs, 288 38,000 micro credentials, 3.2 million hours engaged. And this is across a host of different communities, not just Southside Omaha. For example, the Cities Learn platform is the base of the Digital Cities of Learning in Dallas, Texas, and a couple other larger cities across the country. A few little features here, digital credentials. We can provide digital badges and digital badges across different providers and programs. Again, getting really to that what's next thing, so that participants can collect badges from various programs to show that they are continuing their journey. We can create curated experiences, so we can create playlists. Again, addressing what's next. If we're looking at Robotics 1, how do we get them in Robotics 2? Even if that partner isn't providing a Robotics 2, there might be a partner that's providing something similar across the city that we can pair that child with, so that they can continue their journey. And if there isn't a Robotics 2, we can see that in the landscape, and our partners can realize that maybe that's something that we need to provide. And then it can connect communities through what are called villages. They provide a more focused space for accessing relevant programs, announcements, events, and showcases. They could be made up of smaller communities within the larger community, schools, or even focused around content areas. And that's all I had that I wanted to talk about today, other than the questions that we might have. And so I will stop sharing, and then Shauna can ask us all kinds of great questions.
That is excellent. I'm just so excited, and thanks for walking through that with us. I wasn't aware of all of the awesomeness that's coming our way. So can you tell us more about how that partnership was developed, like how you found that the contact with Cities Learn, and just tell us more about how that came to be?
Yeah, so we've been thinking about this for a little bit. What we sat down, oh gosh, Julie, a couple of years ago would probably be the best.
Well, it was pre-COVID, so.
Yeah, the years blend together, with COVID. There's pre and post, and that's all I really recognize. And it was right around pre-COVID, and we were working with AIM Institute and the Omaha STEM Ecosystem, and we were putting together a federal grant to think about how we might expand the community platform that we had. And so we had this wonderful idea where we were going to do, what we wanted to do was we wanted to bring together the data across the community, provide a platform for providers that connected parents and children with those providers, that then that data could be fed into something that could provide access to researchers to understand better what was going on in our city. And so we thought that was a pretty genius idea until we found out that somebody else had already done it, which is actually even better, because that if it exists, it's a lot easier to look at a model and implement a model that has a proven efficacy. We found that out through what's called the SIGC conference. The SIGC conference is a computer science education conference. That's a National Computer Science Education Conference. And the PI at Digital Youth Network, Nicole
Pinkard.
Pinkard, there it is. Dr. Nicole Pinkard was the keynote for that event. And so that really, we saw what they were doing in Chicago, and it really inspired us. And it was really right along the lines of what we were looking at trying to do here in Omaha. So we gave them a call. They agreed to come down. We built that in as part of our One STEM initiative that we launched here at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And it came down for some meetings with some local stakeholders to discuss what was going on. And we've just been kind of working that partnership ever since.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, to go back to that early conversations was when we did a landscape analysis of what was going on in out of school time programs around STEM education. We realized there was a lot, and we didn't really need to add any more. What we really needed to do was make those connections, because so many, you age out of something, and then parents or educators or students didn't know that next step. And so we felt there was a big void there on connecting those steps for the people. And then also the work involved with our business partners to then go even further and get their investment in this as well, to lead them into certain kinds of industries that they enjoy through the skills they learned.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, I
huge.
think we have on the order of like 1,500 community programs out there, from very large to very small. So capacity did not seem to be the issue, right? It was making those connections that became
Mhm.
the issue, because it
Exactly.
is such a large network.
Yeah, definitely. We see that across the state at all stages. Not higher ed, K through 12, post-secondary, we see it all across the board. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
excellent opportunity there. Okay, Michaela, sorry, I can keep going on this
No,
topic.
you're awesome. Um, Given your leadership roles in STEM, what are you most enthusiastic about in terms of how cities learn will enhance the STEM education and engagement across Omaha?
Hmm. Well, I'm going to say, Chris, while you're thinking, the feedback that I've gotten, because our role is to connect education to workforce, and we have various meetings where we bring those two entities together to talk. And I think that having something in that out of school time and making those connections has really gotten a lot of excitement within the community. And I think they're ready for that. All right, let's work smarter on how we can build our future workforce. So it's involving more people in that conversation. And I got to say it, Chris, no random acts of STEM. We're making connections around STEM education and into workforce.
Yeah, and for me, again, being the physics data nerd, I think probably what's both the easiest to implement and the least expensive to implement aspect is also the most exciting to me, and that's the opportunity landscaping, where we really get a good snapshot of what the ecosystem in terms of out of school time for STEM looks like, to give us actionable data to tell us where are we doing well and where are we not, where, what types of programming we're looking at and what types of programming are we missing. These are things that can really drive change. A great example of this is in our own programming with the STEM Trail Center here at UNO. We did a heat map of program participants. And if we overlaid that heat map with a heat map of, say, household income, what we saw is it lined up, and this is not good, it lined up very well. In the sense that we were really serving higher income participants very well, and what we were missing was large parts of the city. And so what that did is it gave us actionable intelligence and data that allowed us to make change in the way that we were offering our programming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That
And I think I'm sorry, Shauna, when we were talking with Dr. Pinkard, one thing that she said that resonated with me is you talk about building pathways, but what about the footways? How do kids get access? And to, our point, in cities, in parts of our city where there is not that easy access, if they're not at the school or where are they? So we want to make sure that those footpaths are as equal as the career pathways.
Exactly. And then and also knowing like what specifically is happening. So when you say no random acts of STEM, it reminds me of knowing that there are STEM activities happening throughout Omaha in our most underserved and overserved areas for sure. But just like the quality of those opportunities leading to the outcomes we're after, I think too is
Yeah.
something that's
Yeah.
super important. Okay.
Right.
I'm like totally off script on this question list at this point. But I am very excited about what you're working on. So one question I have beyond the greater Omaha area, which we know is mainly served by UNO and Omaha STEM Ecosystem, how do you see this getting to greater Nebraska?
Well, the answer is yes, we do. And we're talking. Well, and Chris, you can talk more to this, but yes, our intent is to work with across the state. We would love to see that.
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting question in terms of how to expand a model like this across a state, especially a state like ours that's has a large rural population and was spread by a whole lot of landmass, right? And so there's some interesting, from my perspective, there's very interesting research questions in terms of how to actually make that expansion in a way that's that actually is successful. And so, a decent piece of that would be looking at a state landscape. So step one, of course, is our focus, which is the Omaha metropolitan region.
Mhm.
And then from that, being able to take the lessons that we've learned to think about how we might expand that to the state. Because the way that we would do that is probably going to be different than the way that we would do it in the Omaha Metro, just because the infrastructure and the programming types of programming, the accessibility challenges are going to be very different.
Mhm.
Makes sense. All right. Well, let's
As
see.
leaders in
Oh,
As
go ahead.
leaders in the local STEM community, what are your long-term goals for Cities Learn, and how do you envision it shaping in the future of STEM in the Omaha area?
Well, Chris, I think you touched on that with some of the data points and the landscape analysis we'll have.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I had mentioned we have a large number of programming providers out there, and that's exactly what we want. We want a large number of programming providers that are passionate about what it is that they're doing. If we can just provide them the tools to make their programmings more effective, to be able to make their programs more scalable, at the same time be able to track and provide participants the ability to go across programs and understand collections of what they're doing. That also provides our industries the ability to see what these kids have done, right? For example, you can imagine coding 1, coding 2, coding 3, coding 4. That may not be provided all by the same program, because the expertise levels might differ from program to program, and that's okay. But if that participant can badge up at different in different places, well, all of a sudden they've got some credential that they're able to show that can either help them in their higher education journey or can help them in their workforce journey, or both, right? And so that's kind of the larger scale vision. And then, of course, after thinking about the Omaha Metro, we're really thinking about how we can do that across the state. How can we bring students from those rural areas, engage them and excite them in STEM disciplines, show them that it does affect and have an immediate impact on their communities that they're in, and then get them into the higher education system here, get them into the workforce here, and then keep them here in Nebraska.
That's wonderful. So our final question, and then we'll open it up to the audience, which I just asked for any questions to be dropped in the Q&A. But how can Nebraskans support your work? So from the business community to NTC, Exarban, Intern Nebraska, et cetera, how can we support?
Well, I think the couple of items is, one is embracing it by, we'll be doing some breakout groups, focus groups throughout this next year, getting feedback from the community to make sure that everybody understands where we're at and answer questions, and that the community is embracing this. And I think the other key point is, of course, the funding. We're still working on the funding piece of it. So if there are opportunities, grants and whatnot that you have connection to that we may not, introducing us to that. So, and Chris, there's other ways you think?
Yeah, everybody, I think, recognizes the biggest challenge to a lot of these things can sometimes be people and fundraising, right? Which really is the same thing, right? Because the fundraising leads to the people. So, those are the that's the area that we're working in now. We're working on the fundraising for the landscaping analysis component first, and then that expansion going forward. We have a couple of different avenues that we're looking at. But again, like Julie said, anybody that's out there that thinks this is aligns well with their priorities within their programming, or they have a good connection towards somebody that does, or an organization that does, then reach out and we can partner. This is not something that's owned by the University of Nebraska. It's not something that's owned by Omaha STEM Ecosystem. It's something that we're trying to build that would be owned by the community.
Mm-hmm. And I like
And
see,
go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. As you complete that landscape analysis, and there's a question about that in the chat that I'll get to in just a second. But as you do that and you see those gaps, there will be opportunities, I think, for people to say, you know what, I offer data science training or whatever that skill set gap is,
Absolutely.
then be able to step into it in a meaningful way versus, I love the random acts of STEM idea because it gets us away from that and just more purposeful work. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Julie, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. One of the things I was going to say is that we have OSE committee group called Career Exploration and Pipeline Alignment, and they are going to be hosting just some open conversation events and throughout 2025. So if you're interested in being part of that conversation, they will be virtual, some in person. Make sure that we capture your email address and we'll put you on that list.
Okay, and I'll share the email list with you after this call too, with both of you.
Okay.
Okay, the question in the chat is, once the landscape is completed, who will maintain or update the information so it's always current?
Yeah, and so the answer to that is unknown at the moment, right? Because it's going to depend largely on the funding and how that is obtained, right? And so, you know, we can imagine a couple of different scenarios. What we're trying to do is make sure that it is as community maintained as possible. Working through the Omaha STEM Ecosystem, which is a collection of 1,200 plus Omaha STEM businesses, community partners, education providers, and a host of other folks. And so we imagine that as we build that out, we will be building out a governance structure to maintain it as well, to make sure that that data doesn't become a static website, right? That shows a point in time, to keep that flowing. And so there's several different models that we're looking at that are from various cities across the country, and it all kind of depends on what might work best for Omaha and in terms of how which model we look at in terms of sustainability.
And I think building on that really quickly is the Omaha STEM Ecosystem is that collective impact organization. And as we mentioned, we work with over 1,500 different community partners. So pulling those partners that really have a vested interest in this and maybe forming some type of a organization or subgroup that is in charge of maintaining.
I love it. I don't see any additional questions. We do have a couple minutes if folks have anything else, but while we're waiting for that, Chris or Julie, do you have anything else you'd like to share with us before we wrap up this morning?
Not on Cities Learn, but I'm going to do a plug.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do is bring in young juniors, seniors in high school, or young people in their 20s that haven't figured out that next step. And it's called Lighting the Spark, the Study of Movement. And it's at UNO in the STEM Trail Center, October 8th at 5 o'clock. And we will have over 12 different industries talking about what does movement look like in their industry, from healthcare to medical to engineering. And so it's a lot of fun. And then we do have some young adults that are telling their story, because nobody has that straight pathway. And we want to make sure just find your next step is all you need to do, and then go from there. So hope everyone can come.
Yeah, we're excited to host that as well in our brand new facility that just recently opened up, and show off some of the great work that we do in the study of movement here at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, through, say, our internationally recognized biomechanics program. Another great event that we'll be hosting on the 4th and the 5th with the Revise Center, which is a resource center for the National Science Foundation, is a convening of informal programming providers. And that is going to bring in a group of program officers from the National Science Foundation's AZLE program, which is for funding informal science learning. And so we hope to be able to bring together a good collection of providers.
Yep. Oh, I think Chris froze. I'll send both of those invitations to you. And you can send them out then to everybody in the group.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat. Sorry, we lost Chris there at the end, but thanks everyone for joining. And Julie, if you could stay on with us for just a second, we'd love that. But thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.